Welcome to Cyber Sentries from Cyberproof on True Story FM. I'm your host, John Richards. Here, we explore the transformative potential of AI, cloud, and cybersecurity, where rapid innovation meets the need for continuous vigilance. This episode is brought to you by Cyberproof, the leading managed security services provider. Learn more at cyberproof.com. On this episode, we've brought back Shreyans Mehta, CTO and co-founder of Cequence. It's been over 2 years since we last spoke to Shreyans, and so much has changed since then. Now we're in a world where enterprises have thousands of agents running night and day, and that sprawl creates unique challenges to manage. In a world of agentic chaos, how do you provide determinism? Let's dive in and hear what Shreyans has to say. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cyber Sentries. I'm super excited today to be joined by Shreyans Mehta, CTO and co-founder of Cequence. Welcome.
Thanks, John, and pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you back again. You're our first return guest. I was looking, you were our third guest on the show. It's been over 2 years since you came on here. So thank you for coming back. Man, the landscape of what AI looks like, the move to Agentic, the way we've seen the drive towards all the new technology out there has just been, folks were telling me, maybe this is just a flash in the pan. Is it going anywhere? And I knew they were wrong. But boy, we've really seen it just explode in so many real world use cases. So to start with, instead of, maybe our normal question, I'd love to hear about how you feel about the last 2 years, the changes we're seeing, and where we're at right now. Like, what's been your thoughts as you've been dealing with that incredible growth that's going on?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, it all started a few years ago with the chatbot.
Yes.
Right? Chat GPT came around, and you could get answers to pretty much every question you had in mind. But that was limited to all that public knowledge that it was trained on. And then it came into the enterprise, right? And what does it take to adopt it in an enterprise is when I can connect my Atlassian, my Jira, my Salesforce, my ServiceNow, and get all those interesting questions that I need answers to all in a chatbot, right? I mean, that was all of last year. Very exciting because earlier you had to wait for sometimes days and weeks to get the answers that you were looking for, generate those reports, go to 5 different teams to get your things done. And now all at your fingertips. So that was exciting. And now even further, like you will have maybe I call it maybe mini-me agents, autonomous agents working on your behalf, hundreds of them, if not more. Doing specific tasks. So it's exciting world ahead for us.
Yeah, and it can also be a bit scary too, right? Because, even early on, everybody was trying to figure out, well, how do you start to secure this? How do you use this at an enterprise? And obviously, security and related to AI has progressed in the last few years to allow enterprises to feel okay. But we still see kind of cracks in the armor, if you will, as certain, big cases come up and you're like, oh, they didn't do it right. They had a mistake and now everybody knows about it. So what's your thoughts there on like what's enabled enterprises to start to feel more comfortable? Has the security gotten better, or is it so valuable that they're willing to take the risk? And, what can they do as they adopt this to decrease the risk that's there?
I think the number one thing is AI agents are in your environment, you like it or not, right? The adoption is happening. It is happening at a very fast pace. To a point, people are ignoring security around it. And there's also sometimes this false sense of security. I mean, if you look at it right now, Mythos is talk of the town, right? The latest preview release from Anthropic, GPT 5.5 also came out this week. There are certain things that come along with it, right? As these LLMs are becoming, you can literally call it smarter and smarter. Right? But they still have certain fundamental issues, right? Like, okay, Mythos is come around and it say, I can uncover vulnerabilities for you much faster. Great, right? I mean, but what it also means is if it's in the hands of bad guys, number one, it will uncover vulnerabilities for you much faster, maybe when you've actually not fixed them, right? I mean, it's easier to find vulnerabilities, but much harder to patch because they're embedded in systems way deep in your environment that you've not sometimes even touched for years, right? The other aspect of it is there is also a fundamental problem in pretty much all LLMs, right? Which is, well, I think prompt injection has been known for some time, which is like, okay, you started with a command and then it it brought in some other context from some other place, and then now it started doing something else, right? There is a fundamental problem called a token flattening problem. There is no system level commands, user level commands. They all flatten, and then if there is an input from outside world, which could just say, "Oh, forget everything else, go in this direction," the LLMs can go in that direction, right? Not always, but they can. There is another fundamental weakness in LLMs is they're actually people pleasers. What that means is they will actually go at great lengths to solve a problem, right? Like, okay, if I can't do it this way, let me try this other way. Let me try this yet another way, and so on and so forth. I have many stories to share, but one story, actually a couple of stories that come to mind around this is there's a public case study called Agents of Chaos. This came out, I think, in February, which is researchers from some of the top universities here in the US. They took one of the latest and greatest, I think, Claude models, Opus at the time. They gave it access. They built agents around it. One was, and in a simplistic form, one of the cases in there was, agent, please save the secret for me or my password for me. Great. It was an email system. It saved the password in the email. Great. All things are great. Right. So I realized I don't want to save my passwords in the email. Right. So the second command to it was like, can you please go ahead and delete that password? I don't want to keep it in your memory. Right. And the agent did not have access to delete the emails. But for some other use case, it did have the access to delete the system. So it did end up deleting the email by actually deleting the system, right? Because there are people. So we had a similar thing that in one of our customer base where one of our customers tried to upgrade their legacy code base over a weekend using an army of Claude code based agents, right? I think it was spun off on a Friday evening. Expectation was by Monday, when this person comes to work, things should be done. Apparently, it did not happen. All this traffic was actually going through our product, so we had an understanding of what the agent is actually doing. He wanted to know what really happened. Why did it not actually go through? So apparently, at some point, the agent struck a wall because it did not have access to certain parts of or hives of the repository. Right. So when you fetch a file, you need the SHA value of the file, a 40 character sort of a string. I mean, it could not fetch it. It had to go at great lengths to see if I can actually fetch the file in some other way. So that's where we also realized that the agent is actually an English major, not a science or a crypto major. So like, okay, let me add a character to the SHA and try to fetch the file. Let me remove a character. It went for hours to actually try to fetch
No.
to fetch a file. It was like, okay, it could not do that. Then he said, okay, maybe I'll try to guess certain file names. Maybe I'll fetch the files that way, right? Again, it hit a roadblock there. It ran out of memory. It started all over again, wasted tokens. It even tried to commit files to see, do I have access to those areas or not? So imagine like the effort it puts in to get the job done. I'm being asked to upgrade this repo to the latest and greatest. And if I don't have the access, I'll go at great lengths to make it happen. Right? So that's why I think it's not just about the point I'm making here is You have an all-powerful system, right, which will go at great lengths. You are planning to give it access to your internal systems, right. And yes, most of the times it will stay on track, but there will be times where it will decide on its own. It's an autonomous system, what it needs to do, and it will use whatever it has available at its disposal, right? Which means all the access that it has. If it is working on behalf of John, it has John's full access. It also knows all these vulnerabilities that are in your environment. So for whatever reason, it decides to do things because somebody asked to do it. It could be you, John, or it could be a prompt injection that came in as an email that it was actually processing. Doesn't really matter. It can actually create a havoc in your environment. And that's the overall point, right? So security is still very critical, even though adoption is going to happen. So the point really is, how do I safely enable it in my environment?
Well, yeah, and we've gone from the danger of just talking to that chatbot to, as you said, these mini me's, these agents that everybody in the company might be working with, or thousands of these, and so that scale has gotten crazy. So, what are enterprises looking to do now? You mentioned there's some like monitoring tools to do this. So it seems like monitoring is a key piece. Is there some proactive restraints and things that you can add in here? What does it look like to try and get a handle then on something that is so powerful, really wants to accomplish it, but will really go to any means necessary to try and get to that goal?
So there are many different things that you need in place, right? Like number one, and I think it has taken security teams by a shock, right? Because the adoption is happening at light speed, right? Security teams don't necessarily know what needs to be done, and things change every 3 months, right? Like when we started off, I think about last year. So at a little bit background, right? We started in the application and data protection stack space, and that's where you and I spoke, John, 2 years ago. And since then, some of the largest enterprises that we're working with, and say this adoption is actually happening, and it's happening in multiple fronts. They are safely enabling agents to interact with their customers and partners, right? Where they are, it's support agents, e-commerce agents, you name it, right? Like it is helping enable employee productivity, right? Like what we spoke about, tens of thousands of their employees are getting enabled in this setup, be it on the GTM side, engineering side, doesn't really matter. And then this autonomous nature of agents, well, can I proactively fix a network problem? Can I proactively triage and fix a outage that I have had, and so on and so forth, right? So when you're bringing this safely into your environment, there are a few things that you need to worry about, right? Number one is these agents are not running in kind of God mode, right? So we spoke about this concept of mini-me. So the agents will work on your behalf, sometimes on behalf of a non-human identity as a system as well. But they have a very specific job description in mind, right? When you are enabling these agents, I'm an SRE agent, I'm an email assistant, whatever that might be, right? You have to start with who is it working on behalf of, right? But then you also need to go to the next level of they don't get all the access that you have, right? So you can start with tying in with an identity of the agent as well. Just attach it and then the most important thing is the access that it gets, right? But as an end user, you don't know what access it needs. You know what job that what job it needs to do. So effectively, starting with that job description, what that agent needs to do, and then eventually translating into the access, which is a subset of what you have, John or Joe or whoever that might be, right? effectively putting in guardrails around its behavior as well, right? So the monitoring, security, all those things are super important, right? But mapping it to how you would have done it to an employee in the company. Yes, there have been tools and technologies like UEBA, User Entity Behavioral Analytics, but those are all tied to technologies about human monitoring. When is a user on the keyboard? Is he using his mobile device or a laptop? Is he working during his work hours? All those things actually are out for gone for a toss now, right? Because these agents run 24/7, right? So being able to come up with the new kind of, you can literally call it like an agent behavioral analytics, right? On top of it, it's not just about monitoring and logging and what access do they have, right? So you have to start with who is it working on behalf of? What is its job, right? What access does it get, right? And start monitoring its behavior and tying it back to the job description that actually has, right? So those are all the things that you need to put in place to monitor these agents, because otherwise, if it's not a question of if actually, when these agents go rogue, you're there to stop it in its tracks.
Wow. Okay. So, I've been hearing for a while and some great points around it that like the important thing to handle with agents with AI right now is it's all about access and identity. But it sounds like this is going maybe one step further, which is that even in that space, it can change what access an agent needs based on the type that it's doing. So it's beyond just saying, hey, we've locked everything out and it needs some access. How do you know what is the right amount? And so now like if you limit it, you run into other issues as you gave in your example where it's trying to find things because it can't. And so you've got to figure out the right amount at the right times for the right agent. And it's fascinating. It does make sense in a way as I translate to like a human model of if I have somebody working on my behalf, they have some level of kind of sub authority under me, but they also, hopefully can't do everything that I can do. And so how do you know at the moment? Now with humans, it's a little easier. You can talk about it, but what does that look like? So are people running these agents and you kind of monitor where it tried to get access and then you do a second run and you say, now I know what of the access it needed I'm going to give to it, or how do you start to understand the profile for these agents, especially as you mentioned, somebody might have hundreds or 1,000 agents out there. How do you build profiles for so many? Probably a lot of them are very similar, but curious about that.
I think you touched on a few points. Like identities are important. User identity, agent identity. But I think giving an identity to a user is important, must have, but not enough. It's super important, right? Because most of the identity systems give you a token to work with, and you have a free access to work with that token for the next 5 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever the token expiration time there is. And there'll be a refresh token, and I'll go fetch my new access after that. But what that agent is doing in those 5 minutes at machine speed, literally light speed, right, is super critical to monitor, right? So the way you do this is effectively think about, you have to build a ring around the agent, right? Where you're controlling the access, you're monitoring every interaction, right? And then it's not just about monitoring. There is one fundamental thing in the way we think about it as Cequence is everything has to start with the job description, right? Like what is the agent supposed to do, right? And think of it as like my email assistant is very different from a marketing assistant, right? Both need the ability to send an email, right? And maybe one only reads the email, right? And then say that bubbles it up as this is important or not, right? But maybe at most send maybe 1 or 2 emails a day, right? The marketing assistant, maybe I'm in the marketing department, I may need to send thousands of emails a day, right? Right. So I'm an SDR or whoever that might be. Both require access to your email system, right? But one needs to be able to send more emails versus the other one is just maybe once or twice, maybe accepting a calendar invite, whatever that function might be, right? So so it's not just about the access. We need to go to the next level is what is it actually doing? And is it behaving the way it's supposed to do, right? So the marketing assistant maybe should have just the ability to send emails, and the context may be a white paper of what I'm supposed to send to market my stuff, right? But maybe not read my emails at all. The email assistant is actually reading through my emails, right? But maybe I'll not allow it to send any emails to anything outside of the Cequence domain or the company I work with, right? So those kinds of things are super critical to monitor, put guardrails on, things around, do I need to allow it to access sensitive information, maybe keys, passwords, anything of those things? Are they allowed to be sent out to another system, or they're allowed to be sent to a specific system? So all of this can be defined as a simple English job description, right? What is it allowed to do? Maybe guess what's not allowed to do, right? And then convert into deterministic rules, right? That's also very important, right? And the LLMs have the power to figure out what it needs to be done, but but what it lacks is kind of determinism, right? Like if I have two paths to get to the system, sometimes I'm going to get path one, sometimes path two. Even the same question might have a slightly different answer based on when you ask it and so on and so forth. But as an enterprise, you need determinism, right? This is my job description. This is the outcome I should get, right? So Cequence, we actually translate it into deterministic rules so that it always stays in those guardrails that we're talking about. So this becomes the full spectrum, right? Being able to assign identities, user, as well as at the agent level, being able to monitor based on those identities what it's actually doing, and is it supposed to be doing what it is actually doing. All these things coming together is how you actually monitor stuff.
Okay, so I can see how powerful that is, but it does seem like going from a job description, which as you mentioned is doable. You can write that out in English as you kind of figure out, to that deterministic part is a big leap for a lot of users. How do they start to go between those tools? Is that where you all come in and help them? Like, what does it look like to transition from, okay, I know I want this to do this, but now how do I start to create the deterministic rules so that this will obey and do only what, I've written out for this description?
That's exactly where Cequence comes in, right? Like, so think of it as we are giving the power of these agents to end users who are not security experts, right? But they want a job to be done, right? The CTO of the organization, CIO of the organization, the CFO of the organization, and their entire team actually wants to use these agents to gain productivity, bring in value to their customers. But we don't expect them to be security experts, right? We expect them to be great at their own job and then create these mini-me agents based on these job descriptions that you're talking about. Cequence instantly translate those job descriptions into access, monitoring, identity rules, right? And then we are monitoring it on the company's behalf, right? So that's effectively we sit between every interaction, sitting from the agent to your own data, going to the outside world. And it does not need to be in like MCP, the Model Context Protocol is one channel for you, right? And it helps enable agents to talk to your data without coupling the full API sort of baggage along with it. So we interact with that, like we enable those interactions safely. What data is accessible, what tools are accessible, is there sensitive data coming through or not, right? All these mapped around a deterministic model, right? The second thing is eventually they don't need to stick to MCP. They will use any channel available. They'll write code to get to an API. They'll get to the web channel. Sort of monitoring every channel that the agent is actually interacting with is effectively what Cequence does.
Wow. Okay. So then now, how are you seeing teams use this then now? Is it each person's got their own dashboard for the agent mini-me's they're using? Is there kind of a central group that's reviewing the monitoring and saying, hey, this one's kind of getting out of line? What kind of structure are people putting in place to try and manage this across an enterprise?
So think of it as like Cequence with our Cequence AI product. So the one is like an employee level access where they can come in and then create these personas, mini me personas that we spoke about. They can create it. The agent gets the access, and based on the job description, all you need is a job description, and everything falls in place. So you have access to applications and tools in your environment. So think of it as we are the official and approved MCP registry in your environment. So these are all the available applications and data for you to use, right? The agents are not allowed to be used anything else outside of the scope, right? On top of that, based on the job description, they come and say, oh, I need this job done. Right? Like that's all they say. And they're done, right? They're getting the access that they need automatically, monitoring that they need automatically, all those things falls in place, right? That's where their interaction actually ends, right? They start using it in their agents and start moving forward with it. But then the security teams get different picture altogether. What are these agents doing? Are they getting the right access? Are they behaving the way they are supposed to do? Should I automatically rate limit stuff? So it's just not about observability, but it's stopping them on the tracks when suddenly my email assistant starts sending my sensitive emails and forwarding into an unknown email address, right? It should stop it on its track, not just that I detected it. So those kinds of controls are automatically enforced. You can override them. It's like, okay, for this specific use case, I want to allow certain things. So that's the view that the security teams actually get along with it.
I see. So it's that double piece. I love that it's they're kind of able to react to it and not just like have to come in and wait for the monitoring, but that it's got some restrictions and stuff it can just drop in there on top of them. How are you seeing this play out in the real world then? How are our teams, adopting this and what results are they seeing from it?
We've enabled some of the largest enterprises move from kind of demoware to mission critical systems, right? Like we have many enterprises using it with kind of, I would literally say, millions of interactions every day, because these are enabling autonomous systems, right? And for, like I said, for public facing interactions, for internal interactions, and with the peace of mind that Cequence is keeping their data safe, right? So from the employee's perspective, they're happy, they're getting all the access that they need with the guardrails that they don't need to worry about. The security teams can take care of it. All of that. So kind of a frictionless way of adopting agentic AI, autonomous AI into your environment.
Wow. So what's the best way for a team that wants to learn more about this? If they're interested in this and want to say, hey, I've got my I need to do something about how Agentic's working in my organization. We're kind of running loose with it and need a system to monitor that. Where should they go to learn more and figure out how they can adopt this?
Yeah, they can go to our website, cequence.ai, starting with the Cequence.ai. AI Gateway is the product. Cequence AI Gateway is the product that we're talking about. You can just learn more about it over there. A lot of our documentation is publicly available. How do you get started? All those things. And you can try the product right there as well. So just request to try the product. Will enable access. You can get started in literally minutes, right? All you need to figure out is what, maybe start with an agent or two. It could be a Cloud Code, Gemini CLI, it doesn't really matter. On the other side, what application do I need to enable access to? Those are the two things, if you're aware of, you can get started with it right away.
Well, definitely check that out. I'll make sure we put those links in the show notes so people can easily find them. Before I let you go, anything else that you all are doing that you want to shout out or point people to?
No, I think this has been great so far. Loved the interaction, John, as always. So thank you for having me here.
Well, thank you, Shreyans, so much for coming back. I'm so amazed at how much has progressed in the last 2 years and how thankful I am that there are groups like you that are staying on top of the changing environment because, as end users, it gets very overwhelming on knowing how do I track all this? How do I stay safe, and knowing that, hey, there's groups out there that are really tackling some of these just cutting edge problems. Fascinating way that you all are dealing with this. And I'm looking forward to see what happens when we connect again in 2 more years and see where the world's at.
Hopefully sooner than that. The world is changing much faster.
It really is. It's light speed. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Don.
This podcast is made possible by Cyberproof, a leading co-managed security services provider, helping organizations manage cyber risk through advanced threat intelligence, exposure management, and cloud security. From proactive threat hunting to managed detection and response, Cyberproof helps enterprises reduce risk, improve resilience, and stay ahead of emerging threats. Learn more at cyberproof.com. Thank you for tuning in to Cyber Sentries. I'm your host, John Richards. This has been a production of True Story FM. Audio engineering by Andy Nelson. Music by Amit Sagi. You can find all the links in the show notes. We appreciate you downloading and listening to this show. Take a moment and leave a like and review. It helps us to get the word out. We'll be back June 3rd, right here on Cyber Sentries.